Good afternoon. Quite a bit of news today, actually, especially when it comes on the international front. I've been keeping a close eye, as always, on what's going on the international front because largely that is going to be what really affects us. Of course, things internal to the country has a lot of effect, but the way it's looking, the international things are going to have more of an effect. It's kind of like one of those things to where you can get a bit of a look into the future by paying attention to the international news. In stocks and bonds, and I don't know a whole lot about stocks and bonds, but I know there's shorts and there's futures, and the shorts, in my opinion, are more the national news, to where the longs would be the futures would be the international news. So I see things ramping up considerably still on the diplomatic front, especially between the West and the East. And that's what I'm paying close particular attention to. So I'm going to be covering that. I don't have necessarily a topic or a gripe or anything like that for the monologue today. I will say that that was the for those that just catch the monologue and not the live show. We do a Bible chapter before the monologue, and that was the last of 2 Corinthians. So Monday we will be starting on Matthew. So I've got a lot of files set up for that this morning. It's pretty well ready for me to go in, do my daily routine of putting the video together in the morning, and going from there. I will mention again, just because why not? I've got to stop finding shame in this, but I will mention again, for those out there, that if you have alternative media that you like, support them. Okay, and I'm not saying necessarily us. I'm saying any alternative media out there, support them. If you like Lionel, support him. If you like Roy, I don't know if Roy's got a way to support him. I honestly don't know. But if he does and you like him, support him. It doesn't matter who it is. Hell, if you like Alex Jones, support him. Okay, because this is well, Alex has quite a bit of funding, but most of us don't have that. And so it's not necessarily about, oh well, not in our case anyway. It's not something that's necessary for us to continue on. We're not going to run off to Patreon. We're not going to do a lot of the other stuff that I see a lot of channels doing. We're just not going to do that. That's not how we roll. But if you are so inclined, we do have the super chat function available. We have the PayPal donate button right there on the website that you see. And as I said the last couple of days, I did start running AdSense, Google AdSense on the website. On the desktop, it's at the very bottom. I noticed mobile when I go onto it, it gives me both a place at the bottom, but it also gives me like a little banner thing up top. You don't have to buy anything. Just click the ad. That's literally all you have to do is click the ad. It's crazy, but I clicked it a couple of times from my phone the other day, and it registered. So, and it actually did throw some change in the jar, so to speak. So it works. So the least I could ask of folks, if they are inclined to support us, just click on the ad. It doesn't. You don't have to buy nothing. It doesn't. It's just an ad. Not a big deal. So anyway, let's go on and move on over to Twitter, and we'll cover the news. And I'll dive a little deeper into anything that's of more importance, and that's what today's monologue will consist of. I put that video out earlier. It was another video that was demonetized immediately. I knew it would be, especially because of the subject matter. Um, and even my monologues, they have gone down and absolutely demonetized every single one of my monologues, and it makes no sense. It really doesn't, because we're not covering stuff here that is that should be a problem. It's unreal. I bet you that CNN and MSNBC and all those, I bet you all of their stuff isn't being demonetized, and I find that highly crazy. And it's not about the money. That's not why we do this. But we do put our time into it and our effort into it, and this is a deal, right? Not with you guys. This is a deal between us and YouTube, and we're doing our part, and YouTube is not. So today's monologue is appropriately titled the Watchman News Monologue, News and Events, if that so pleases the YouTube Queen. Because what can we do? And it's not just us, and it's not just news, it's everybody. I mean, there's channels that are having things demonetized that just makes absolutely no sense, like how-to videos and stuff like that. And I'm not talking about how to set the scope on your 50 cal. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just average everyday how-to things that are very helpful and very useful for people. And it's sad, it's disgusting. And you know, again, I brought this up yesterday real quick, and I'm going to get off of it. I really don't want to be a rant on this because I don't want people to think that that's what our focus is. But, the thing of it is at the end of the day, let me show you again because there's nothing on here that you guys can't see. Um, if I click on this view more here and see, this is what I'm saying. Today, somebody clicked on an ad. 35 cents. Okay, and I don't know what part of that, how much of that we get, or I don't know. We just set this up, so I have no idea. But again, that's what I'm saying. Please click on that ad on our website because it does register, and I'm showing 35 cents today. I don't know if that's what we get, if that's our cut or not. But even if it's a nickel, that we get, it's something. But see, it's already registering. The ads are clearly playing on our website, right? Because you can see them right at the bottom. They're there. So Google, right, the one that is in charge of all this advertising on YouTube, clearly does not have a problem with what we do. Okay, that should be pretty evident by now that Google has no problem with what we're doing. So why does YouTube? Considering that I have to go through Google AdSense, this very same platform, to put the little ad on the website. It makes no sense. And, I don't hold it against any of the content creators whatsoever for holding their feet to the fire on this subject, because it's bogus. And in my opinion, it's a breach of contract. And I know that the way they've got the contract worded, that on paper they can get out of it and all that, but that's bogus, right? That's absolutely bogus because there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of things that should not be stripped of monetization. And it's insane. It's insane. Just think about that. Those in control, the elite, whoever, whatever you want to call them, they don't want you educated, whether that be in the truth. They don't want you educated in how to do things for yourself. They want you to be mindless, stupid fools that do nothing but consume. That's what they want. Sadly, they get large swaths of people that will support them on that. That will support them on that. The people that don't think somebody else should be able to make money on their own, don't think they should be able to own their own business, or don't think somebody else should be able to make enough money where they work to live. Those people are actually supporting this nonsense and supporting the people behind this nonsense. Those people are in favor of people just being stupid, mindless consumers. And to me, that boggles my mind. And I know there's a fair amount of people in society that's all they want to do. They want to be mindless consumers, right? They want to be blissfully ignorant of anything and everything going on. And hey, they've got the right to do that. However, we should not all be punished because they don't want to reach out and try to get a little bit more out of life. And it's sad. It's sad. So anyway, again, I didn't really mean to go into a rant on that, but I wound up doing it anyway. My apologies on it. Again, it's not about the money, and I'm not even thinking about us. I'm thinking about other channels that big channels that actually it makes a difference. One of them, we're going to play a video from High Impact Flicks in a little bit, and he kind of goes over it, and he runs through his his back end of YouTube, and you see the tens of thousands of views, if I'm not mistaken, of just a few of the videos, right? A few of his recent videos, and it's like, wow, now that's a chunk of change, right? We literally we don't get much of anything because we don't get that many views, right? I mean, we just don't hardly get the views. And so we get chump change, and that's cool. I get that, right? But people like High Impact Flicks, man, they are losing out on literally hundreds of dollars a month. Hundreds of dollars a month. Man, that is just not fathomable to me at all. That's not cool. That's theft. That's theft, it's breach of contract. It's absolutely horrid. And YouTube needs to be called out on it. Absolutely. So if it so pleases the Queen, knock it off. Anyway, to the news. Washington declares Russian trade envoy to U.S. persona non grata. That is not good. And you are going to see consistent steps as I go through these Twitter articles. You are going to see consistent steps. And this is ramping up at an unbelievable pace. Kremlin disagrees with U.S. claims that Russia is waging diplomatic war. How is Russia waging diplomatic war? Right? Because, okay, here's the thing. If you and I are out in the street and I walk up to you and I punch you in the face, you're walking down the street minding your own business. I walk up to you and punch you in the face. I don't think anybody in their right mind would argue that I started the fight. Likewise, if you walked up, I'm minding my own business, and you punch me in the face, I don't think anybody would argue that you started the fight. So how in the hell can this be Russia's fault when Russia wasn't the one that started it? All Russia is doing is defending itself, standing up for itself. And here they want to talk about bullying, and in some states they want to make it a felony for a child to bully another child in school. Where are they learning? Right from the top in this country, they are learning bullying. They're being taught bullying right from our own government and how they deal with international people or international countries, however you want to word it. It's insane. Talk about do as I say, not as I do environment. It's incredible. Arabs start uprising against U.S. backed armed groups near Raqqa, says the Russian Ministry of Defense. Moscow says envoys of states that expelled Russian diplomats informed about response. London given a month to cut number of diplomats in Russia. Deadly mall fire. Deadly mall fire in Siberia caused evacuation of 700 people. Now this is a new fire. This is not the old fire that had happened that took the lives of I think 56 people. This is something different. And if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be another one here in a moment that in Russia, and they're just. I mean, I know fires happen all the time, all over, and yada yada yada, but it just the particular places that they're happening is concerning. Tear gas from the skies. IDF targets Palestinian protesters with drones. Now, we're going to read that article, and I want folks to think about that, right? I just want you to think about this article and what we have said here and what many other channels have said. And I just want folks to think about this when you remember back when law enforcement first started getting the drones and saying they weren't going to weaponize them. Yeah, you remember that, right? They're not going to weaponize them. Nah. The Israeli Defense Forces has used tear gas deploying drones to disperse huge crowds of Palestinian protesters along the Israel-Gaza border area Friday. So far, at least 12 Palestinians have been killed and up to 500 injured in the clashes, Reuters reports. Now I'm going to repeat that. 12 Palestinians have been killed and up to 500 injured in the clashes. That's nuts. One Palestinian farmer, oh yeah, by the way, where's the United Nations? Where's the UN stepping in and talking about the humanitarian disgraces that's going on there? Oh, they're nowhere to be found. I wonder why. One Palestinian farmer was killed during an IDF tank volley in the early hours of Friday morning. The IDF then used a combination of live rounds and rubber-coated steel pellets to disperse the crowds demonstrating at the Great Return before using its airborne tear gas system. First thing they used was tear gas that they fired using vehicle-mounted guns, and then, as the crowds increased, they brought drones to fire tear gas canisters, an eyewitness who chose to remain anonymous told RT. Demonstrators rolled burning tires and hurled stones at the border fence area, prompting the IDF to declare the area a closed military zone, while accusing the Hamas terror organization of endangering the lives of Gaza civilians. Now, let me play on language here a little bit. What is it that they call the protest whenever they tell them that they want to leave? It's what is it again? An unauthorized. I can't remember the words. They say it. The police say it over the loudspeaker at protests. Do you remember? I can't remember the exact verbiage, but folks, it's the same thing as a closed military zone. So see, they think, right? These people who assume positions of quote unquote authority, they decide for everybody else that all of a sudden they, being the kings and queens that they are, that you can no longer have yourself in a particular area at a particular time. And I'm sorry, and I understand that, this is the United States with the First Amendment. I understand that's not the United States with the First Amendment. I get that. However, the First Amendment is an unalienable or unalienable right. So I would say, with thinking like that, I would say every human being on the face of this planet has the First Amendment. Interesting. They do the same thing here, folks. They just say a little bit of a different language, okay? Just a little bit of a different language. That's all. It's still the same thing. Let's see. Tens of thousands of demonstrators called for the right of return for refugees in what is now Israeli territory. The protests and clashes took place in at least 6 locations along the roughly 65-kilometer or 40-mile border fence. Great Return is coinciding with the Jewish holiday of Passover, and it's feared the demonstrations will serve to increase tensions in the already volatile region. Now, whose fault is that one? Palestinians have vowed to continue their protest for 6 weeks. And that is the story. It's insane, though. Back to the actual subject matter of this article. We were calling out the weaponization of these little drones, these little quadcopters, and I don't know what octocopters, I don't know what you want to call them all, but we'd been calling it out a long time ago that they were going to weaponize them. The entire time saying, no, we're not, we're just going to use them for surveillance. That's all. We're just, and even that became a joke, right? It's absolutely insane. Now you, by the way, if you buy a drone, you are under strict regulation, right? It's insane, folks. It's insane. And I have no choice but to laugh when people cry and throw a fit when they hear the words government shutdown. It's like, that's what we need is a government shutdown. That's exactly what we need. Don't cry about it, cheer it on. I do. Okay, I did the report on the South Carolina volunteer cop shooting the fleeing suspect. That's what the report was on earlier today. Trump ally detained by FBI at Boston airport. I think it was Roy Potter was talking about this, or somebody was talking about it. Hell, I don't remember. Could have been Lionel. I'm not sure. Somebody was talking about it. This is that Ted Malloch, and so RT had ran an article on them. This is another one we're going to dive into here. Papers, please, and your Facebook posts. U.S. to demand social media info from visa applicants. And I know, I can already hear the people saying, well, you don't have rights if you're not a citizen. I can already hear it. What if you don't have social media? You know, there are people out there that don't have Facebook accounts. People seeking a U.S. visa may soon be required to disclose their social media information so that 5 years' worth of their online footprint can be scrutinized. It was previously reserved for people from terrorism-affected states. Diplomats and travelers facing extreme medical situations are to be exempt from the new, more rigorous vetting procedure proposed by the U.S. State Department. By the way, if you're a terrorist and you have harmful intent on this country and you use social media to speak about that, you're a moron. I just want to put that out there and make that clear. You're an absolute moron. All others, including immigrants and standard visitors, will have to disclose their accounts on a list of social media use in the past 5 years, as well as telephone numbers and email accounts used in the same period. Additional information may be required by the U.S. government. Even the people with exemptions could be required to provide their social media info on some occasions. Now, how often do we have acts of terrorism, true acts of terrorism, right, that's truly organized by those outside the country? How often do we have that happen here? So, we need to do this. Why again? Oh, control. Control. That's what it's about. Because let me tell you a little something. They've already got all of that information. They've already got it all. Which makes me wonder what the hell they're really doing. What they're really up to. It seems to me more like what's more likely happening is something that they're gaining approval for that they wouldn't normally have anyway. Okay? That's what it seems like to me. See, the people here in the United States don't realize that, like when they buy their phone, okay, you sign a contract when you buy your phone that they can turn, that they can turn the mic on, they can turn the camera on anytime they please, and they have the right to do that because you agreed to the contract, okay? So that's the way that works. Now, the same is kind of true with this, okay? The same is true here. If these people give them permission, oh wow, thank you, Smitty. I just looked over. I seen Jen typing away and seen something yellow on her screen. Thank you, sir. So it seems to me like what they're doing is they're actually getting approval for something else, something deeper than just having the data themselves, because they've already got the data. They've had the data. Like, before you can finish typing your sentence and hit enter, they've already got your data. They've got it before you think it, I think, sometimes, right? And that's actually, I say that kind of jokingly, but there's actually some truth to that statement that I just said. Some have covered it. Dabu's covered it here and there. Others have covered it. Let me go ahead and read on here. Similar rules were previously in place for people perceived as a potential security risk. For instance, those coming from countries with significant terrorist activity. The change is less severe than what it was earlier proposed by some U.S. officials. For instance, then Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly said people coming to America should be required to give up their social media passwords for checks. The level of access to travelers' personal devices that officers of the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol are allowed to receive was somewhat restricted in January. Meaning not anymore. The change may be disputed by the public in the next 60 days. Once the department, and that's important to remember, folks, it needs to be disputed. Once the department submits its proposal to the Federal Register later on Friday, let's see. So far, there has been plenty of response online about how people will now be rejected visas for joking about America and concerns about possible privacy violations. For instance, one popular comment on a Reddit thread about this story has an imaginary dialogue at a U.S. embassy. Are you a terrorist? No. Are you a communist? No. Do you want to kill the president? No. Is this your Willy Wonka meme saying, tell me again how your first world problems, America, will I rejected? And yeah, that's perfect. That's actually pretty beautiful there. Looks like the U.S. is finally going to win one of its many impossible wars. The war on tourism, says another one. So, and I want to refocus real quick on this. What it set up here, the level of access to travelers' personal devices that officers of the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol are allowed to receive was somewhat restricted in January. Okay, they're even pointing that out. Was. So something happened since January that took that restriction. So now they don't need the password. Okay, now they don't need your password. They're telling you why they don't need the password. Now, our job is to dig and find out what it is they did that makes it unnecessary for them to need a password to be able to obtain every bit of that information. The next thing that we cannot forget is we've got 60 days to stomp this into the ground. Please, folks, this is not about terrorism. Okay? This is not about terrorism. We don't have a problem with terrorism. You know why we don't have a problem with terrorism? Because a lot of the terrorism that's going on around the world is funded and set up from here. Period. Now come on. I mean, if there's 6 tribes and 5 of those 6 tribes are getting attacked in the middle of the night, one of those tribes are not getting attacked in the middle of the night, who do you think is responsible for doing it? It doesn't really take a lot of thought to figure that one out. See a bunch of tweets here, and that's it. Just a bunch of tweets. But that's the article. It's insane. And I know a lot of people are going to have the attitude, well, I'm a U.S. citizen, so that doesn't affect me. Who cares? We need to care, folks. We need to care about our brothers and sisters across the pond, and everywhere for that matter, because we suffer their same fate. We all have to care about one another now. We're just at that point. We're at that point. This is a global thing. This isn't just something within our country. This is very, very global. Moscow calls for restraint amid growing death toll and Gaza border clashes. A British authorities searching Russian plane in London is provocation. Moscow concerned by UK's pledge to use cyber capabilities against Russia. That is something insane there. And when I read that headline, when I tweeted it out, I got to thinking, so is that what the deal is with all the extra money going into funding for cybersecurity here in the United States? Is cybersecurity really setting up to attack other countries, preemptively, because for the kids, you know what I mean? I had a strong suspicion that's what it was then. Here's the other one I was telling you about. Fire at mental health facility at Moscow suburb. Patients evacuated. UN Security Council blacklists DPRK shipping companies over oil smuggling. How dare them smuggle oil? How dare them smuggle oil? Now, it's perfectly okay for us to go in and take over entire countries and take over their oil fields and support, literally support terrorism by buying that particular oil. And yeah, North Korea, you're drunk, go home. Let's see. That covers the Twitter stuff. And again, I don't really have any type of a subject or anything. Let's see. Here's some breaking news going on here. Russian embassy in UK files official explanation demand after Aeroflot plane search. So this has to do back with that plane. I'm going to tweet that out real quick. Um, if I see articles a lot of times while I'm doing the show, I do tweet out during the show, after the show. If I see stuff, I tweet it. So, but I don't really have any particular subject to rant about or to bitch and moan about or anything else. Didn't have coffee today, so we're running a little bit sluggish. So, I don't really have anything other than the news and my little rant about what's going on with YouTube and all that earlier. So I think that's pretty much it for the monologue. Let me close the monologue up and we'll continue on with the live show. So those that just watched the monologue, as always, we love you. God bless you and be one with your spirit. Hope you have a great weekend.